remember, and I'm going to drop some little tidbits here. Like, for instance, did you know, and do you know the definition of what a mushroom is in the O-line vernacular? Look it up, everyone out there. It was their own little group. The mushrooms have gone on for decades and decades and decades, and they had their very, very strong group O-line coaches across the country. They talked, they hung out, they partied together, they drank beer together, they ate, they talked O-line scheme all the time. It was a really tight-knit group, and they were a big part of making sure that it was interesting, because a lot of those guys talked, and they would honestly share behind the scenes, much to the chagrin of many GMs and head coaches, but they were really, really close. And there were some great ones out there. One of my favorite O-line coaches, I just want to leave you with this, Dante Scarnecchia, one of the very, very, very best ever to coach in the National Football League out in New England. And what he shared with all of us who worked there, either as personnel men or up-and-coming executives, was just unbelievable. Let's start with this, if you don't mind, and then we can go back and forth, Eric. So what I'd love to do is say, let's differentiate between left tackle and right tackle. And let's start with the run game first, because you brought the run game up. As an evaluator, and we don't have to stay on this too long, but as an evaluator, back to the same thing I've mentioned before, snap the whistle. It's the initial quickness, right? So let's go run first. Left side. That left side is all about athleticism for the most part. I mean, there are some big guys that play on the left side. It's about quick twitch. It's about explosiveness, fast feet, agile feet, the ability to get your ass around to the hole, we call it. I know that sounds a little odd play on words. Ass to the hole, steer, wall off, has the eyes to see to the next step, to the next stage, right? So can come off the ball fast and move over to the linebacker, can seal, has the ability to run his feet upon contact, has the power to move people away, has the power to wall off, strong hands inside, dominate. These tackles, you want to be able to see them. We call them gore. We want to see them gore at the end of the play. So it's everything, but it all starts with the initial movement, get position, get things going, run, explode, strength, maneuver, and dominate.
Yeah, and I think, it's so interesting, right? Because you talk about, and this, there's a little bit of, the end of, the second half of your Falcons career, that where you guys are mostly a zone, or you guys were a zone running team, that gets into that, right? Where, a lot of what a tackle's supposed to do is get a gap over, right, on the backside of a run play. And that is so hard to do when you're not athletic, because, the big thing that is so tough, is so difficult. And one of the things that I, really want to study, the big data bowl came out and was on offensive and defensive line play in the passing game, but I do want to, in the run game, it's important too. There is no bigger athletic mismatch in an NFL game than between tackle and edge. Because there's the defensive ends are like closer to wide receivers athletically than they are tackles. And as a tackle, you have to, and I know Mitchell Schwartz, by the way, I'm going to plug this. Thomas Dimitroff is going to be on the Sloan football analytics panel. Last year, Mitchell Schwartz on that same panel talked about, because Mitchell Schwartz was a -2 standard deviation athlete, but he was an amazing football player. He talked about, how he had to engineer his steps to make sure that he was getting to the right spots. And, I think with tracking data and stuff analytically, we can really measure that. But you're talking about getting a gap over, and that's just so hard if the guy doesn't have athleticism. So he could be a college prospect who wins, right? Wins over and over and over again. And yet at the same time doesn't have that athleticism. He's just going to have a really hard time in the league.